Hello, everybody. How's it going? We're back for another episode of Halftime on the Hudson Dorm Discussions. We're going to be popping into some people's rooms here and there. We're going to start with Nick because he's got to talk to us about the NL and what's going on over there. Got a little bit of a weird thing going on with the wild card race over there. St. Louis Cardinals kind of pulling away, but hey, you never know what happens, right? And the NL in general is a fun division to talk about, fun area to talk about. Then we're going to jump over to Derek because he's going to talk to us about the AL. You talk about the NL, you got to talk about the AL. And I think their wild card race might even be more fun than what's going on in the NL right now. And then after that, I mean, football just started. And we got to talk about football. We're only just past week 2 going into week 3 at this point. Isabella is going to come on here and talk to us everything going on in football. Who's the winners, who's the losers, what's up, what's down, who's left, who's right. I don't know. We're going to jump through all of that today. And like I said, let's start by going over to Nick's. Let's go see what Nick's up to. Nick, what's going on, man? How you doing today?
Connor, my friend, it's so good to be back talking with you, bro. Just had some pizza for dinner, and now I get to talk sports with the man himself. Can't get much better than that.
God. You're making me blush. You're making me blush right now. I should be talking about you this way. It's the first time you've been on here this semester, and it's first time for me too. Actually, first time for both of us. You know, Matt and Zach had to hug the screen last week when they went on the studio. But get them.
What are you gonna do? We get the StreamYard specialty over here.
We do, and we're gonna kill it. So let's get right into it. What's going on in the NL? What's up?
Yeah, so I mean, the wild card race has been, kind of close, this past month, but things have definitely started to see a little bit more of a gap in recent days, recent weeks, and that's been with the Cardinals, as you alluded to, at the top of the program, and they've really started to pull away of late on a 10-game win streak now at the time of this recording, and really just been playing great baseball of late while the teams behind them are starting to struggle. The Mets have had some serious struggles in the past couple of days. The Padres, they've been losing some games as well. I think they've only won 2 of their last 11, something like that. So they've been on a little bit of a downward spiral. And the Reds as well have been, losing of late and also losing ground on the Cardinals in their own division. So Cardinals are pulling away with it. Obviously, we know the Dodgers or Giants are going to be in that top wild card spot, but we're definitely starting to see some separation as we come down here into the last 10 days to 2 weeks of this season. So I don't know. Do you think it's done at this point? Still time left?
I mean, it's baseball. I feel like anything could happen, especially in a sport like baseball. I mean, 2 weeks doesn't seem like a lot of time, but you never know what could happen there. It's hard to say because I really wanted the Reds to make it just for Joey Votto. Like I wanted to see some playoff Joey Votto action this year. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like the case. I mean, 3 games, again, that could happen, but it's a little tough to see that going out. I think we're definitely, like you said, we're definitely going to see the Giants. We're definitely going to see the Dodgers. I mean, the Cardinals, kind of like you said, kind of seem like they have it. Mets are not going to make it. I could kind of see the Phillies trying to do something, trying to make a push because I think they're only about 3, 4, 5 games out of.
Yeah, I think it's the Reds are 3 games back, and then the rest of the pack is like 3.5, 4 back, and then the Mets are the furthest ones back at this point. But
I think the Braves are. I think they're only like 4 games out of first. I think in general, or like 3 games out of first. I think it's something like that. I was just looking at the schedule a little earlier, the standings a little earlier, and I saw that. So they can potentially do something. But yeah, I think I want to talk about real quick. One of the biggest shocks I think though is that. So yes, to answer your question, yes, I think it kind of is done at this point, but I mean, 2 weeks of baseball is kind of a little bit of time there. Some crazy stuff can always happen. You never know. First of all, though, before I continue, what about you? Do you think this is kind of a done deal?
I think at this point it's kind of a done deal. I mean, we've seen the Cardinals just playing really good baseball of late, and I mean, right now they're playing the Brewers for the 3rd game of their series, but just took the first 2 against them as well. So I mean, they're beating good teams, they're playing good baseball, and I think at this point with 2 weeks left in the season, it's certainly possible that a team could come back, but with the way they're playing, I could see them just carrying this momentum straight through the next 2 weeks into the wild card matchup, into the playoffs.
Yeah. But I think honestly though, regardless of who makes that second wild card spot, I don't see any of them going past the Giants or the Dodgers. I mean, it's a 1-game elimination, so you really never know what's going to happen. Like some shocker can happen, but I feel like whoever makes that second spot is going to kind of happen.
I mean, especially with the way Scherzer's been pitching of recently, it's going to be tough for anybody to beat the Dodgers if they're in that spot there.
Yeah, 100%. But that makes me want to talk about the Padres real quick because before the season began, I mean, like I feel like that was one of the biggest storylines. It was, were the Padres going to really challenge the Dodgers, make the playoffs again, especially with the guys that they have, with Eric Hosmer, Jake Cronenworth, Fernando Tatis, Yu Darvish out there pitching. Like, they have such a good squad. And Manny Machado, obviously. They have such a good squad. And I think expectations were so high for that team. But now look where they are. I think they only have 76 wins. They really dropped the ball in the second half of the season. Then we got guys arguing in the dugout. Tell me what happened with that, because that was all over Twitter. But tell us what happened with that situation.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mentioned it earlier, but they're
Mhm.
2-9 in their last 11 games. I just looked down at my notes here. 2-9 in
Yeah,
their
yeah,
last
yeah.
11 games, and I mean, yeah, they've just been on a on a downward spiral of late, and I mean that's kind of boiled over in the dugout the other day as we saw footage of Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis getting into it, and you heard you heard Machado verbally screaming at Tatis, which is something that you don't normally see up close and personal in
Mhm.
the dugout like that. It was filmed on cameras. Fans in the stands got audio of the altercation as well. And you just heard Machado basically berating Fernando Tatis. And the line he kept saying over and over again was, "This is bigger than you. This is bigger than you. You're the best player. You're the best player out on the field. Everyone knows it." And, the way that I kind of interpreted it, and I think most people kind of got it this way, was that Machado was just saying, you know, you're so good. Please stop worrying about yourself. Obviously not saying please or anything like that. Not using
Right, right,
that language,
right, right.
but you know, there's bigger things than you. How the team does, if the team wins or loses, that should be what you're more concerned about. And I think it's a message that's certainly interesting. They talked with the press about it a few days later, so definitely an interesting circumstance. And I mean, for where they are now, a few games back of the Cardinals for that second wild card spot, it doesn't all look good in San Diego right now. Even though they do have a lot of young pieces over there.
Yeah, no, not at all. It doesn't look good for him at all. And I think with that whole situation, it spawned from, I think Tatis was up at the plate, questionable call, looked like a strike. He kind of does some kind of little acting where he's all mad about the call, kind of walking off the field, looks really upset. One of the coaches goes out there, complains to the umpire, coach gets thrown out of the game. And then it's like, not only did he get his coach essentially thrown out with the way he was acting, because then his coach was like, oh, well, Tatis is right. If he's acting this way, I'm going to go out there and fight for him. But if Tatis had got thrown out of the game, I think that's kind of like what Machado was saying, is like, you can't get yourself thrown out of the game when you're the best player on the field, especially when we're doing as bad as we are and we need to really perform. I mean, the odds are they're not going to make the playoffs, but I feel like if that, because that's the read I was getting, if that's what Machado was going for, then I totally feel him, because you can't go out on the field and play for your own ego, or do things for your own ego to save your own image when you have a whole team relying on your production because you're the best you're the best player on the roster. So if that's how the situation worked out, then I'm kind of with Machado on that. And I think something that kind of jumped out to me too is, I think in the video, the fan was like, some team you are. And it's like, this happens though. This happens with teams. Players fight, and it
It's
happens.
happened, and it's weird because it's not normally a sport that you see up close and personal like that. We see things like this happen in basketball and football from time to time. Especially in football, pretty frequently. But baseball, it's a long season. You don't normally see altercations like this. But coming
Yeah.
down to the wire, it was obviously right there in the dugout for everyone to see. And then it was interesting because I don't know if you saw, they held a little press conference a few days later during batting practice, but they were basically
Mhm.
talking to the media. And Machado was even saying this is getting blown way out of proportion compared to what it
Yeah.
really was. And they were talking about how they're brothers, they're going to be here for a long time together. Obviously Tatis, a young player, Machado got that big deal with the Padres a few years ago. So I think it's something that they probably regret a little bit. But I'm kind of with you. I get the message that Machado was trying to convey to Tatis in that moment, and I'm sure frustrations were just at the point where they're starting to realize that things are slipping from their grasp.
Yep.
Both for their the way they're playing themselves and for the team as a whole.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, regardless of how the Padres end up finishing their season, it doesn't look like they're going to make it. And we kind of established that NL is kind of like a lock on what it is right now. Odds are everyone who's slated to be in it is going to be who's in it come October. But Nick, thank you so much for supplying all that information, not only for me, but for everyone listening. As usual, delivering the goods. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, this is the guy right here. This is who you go to.
Come on, Connor. You're the guy. You're the guy.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Listen, your first time on. I gotta you flatter me to finish. I gotta flatter you to end. That's how we do it. But Nick, thank you
Fair
so
enough.
much for coming on the show again. It's always a pleasure.
Hey, always a joy to talk to you, man.
Yeah, I'll see you later, Nick.
See ya.
Well, good stuff from Nick as always. Pleasure to have him. Pleasure for him to let us hop on over to his dorm to do a little discussing. Because that's the title, dorm discussion. Let's head on over, though, to another dorm, and let's stick with the sport that we were talking about. Let's keep talking about baseball. Newcomer on the show here, Derek Dogialo. I hope I said that right, but here he is. Let's hop on over to his dorm. Derek, did I say your last name right? I hope I did. I don't know.
It's DeGallo, but very, very close. Very
DeGallo.
close.
Okay, DeGallo, like Joey Gallo. I'm with it. Which I know you're a Yankee fan, aren't you? I saw when you first came to one of our meetings, all clad in Yankee stuff, and the first name couldn't go any perfect with it. I mean, come on, Derek Jeter, what's going on?
I mean, it couldn't be perfect. I mean, it'd be basically against my religion if I wasn't a Yankee fan. I mean, come on now.
I know. Come on, you got to be a Yankee fan. But speaking of Yankees, let's talk about the AL. What's going on there? Because that race is tight, and it's still underway right now with the Yankees playing. The Blue Jays lost today. Tell me what's going on.
So right now you got the three guys are tied for the 2 wild card spots. You got the Red Sox, who are just above the Blue Jays and the Yankees, 2 games ahead. And then you got Toronto Blue Jays and the Yankees, who are tied for the 2nd wild card spot. But Yankees right now are playing the Texas Rangers, and it's tied 3-3. So that should be definitely interesting to see what happens with the Yankees there. And then a little bit further back, you got the Seattle Mariners and the Oakland Athletics, who are playing right now. So those 2 teams are going to keep battling out. So those 2 teams, in my opinion, probably won't be getting in that wild card situation. But when you look at the Red Sox, they're going to have a 3-game series against the Yankees, then a 3-game series against the Baltimore Orioles. Then they got to play Washington, and that's a 3-game series. And then when you look at the Toronto Blue Jays, they play the Twins for a 4-game series. Then they got to play the Yankees 3-game series. And then they got the Baltimore Orioles 3-game series. And then for the Yankees, they actually probably have the toughest schedule amongst the teams here. They got a 3-game series against the Boston Red Sox, 3-game series against Toronto, and 3 games against the Tampa Bay Rays. So Yankees can make up a lot of ground in those games, but it's going to be a lot of tough competition for those Yankees to try to get that second or first wild card spot.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, what you mentioned was completely on the button there. Yankees have the toughest schedule to close it out, which in a way isn't fair for them. Now, thing with the Yankees is the problem with them has just been how inconsistent they've been. You go a 13-game winning streak, you look great. I mean, they come out screaming hot, scorching hot right out of the All-Star break, and then they've kind of dropped the ball. I mean, they essentially had it in their hands. I think at one point they were only 4 games behind the Rays. I think it was like a 2 or 3 game lead. You correct me there, but I think it was like a 2 or 3 game lead at one point over the Red Sox. And I think they had an even bigger lead over the Blue Jays. And they just dropped the ball. I mean, come August, they look like a completely different team than the team that went 13-game win streak. Or for the past month, rather, I would say, not the whole month of August. The past month, let's say. Mm-hmm. They look like a completely different team, and they dropped the ball. But shout out to the Blue Jays, because I think the Blue Jays are a much better team than they have shown to be for the beginning of the season. I think they were just incredibly unlucky. Things just weren't working out in their way. But now everything seems to be clicking. Hyun-Jin Ryu looks good. Robbie Ray looks absolutely incredible, like best pitcher of the month, maybe even best player of the month in August. Then you got guys like Bo Bichette, Vlad Guerrero Jr. obviously could get the Triple Crown, maybe the MVP. And then Lourdes Gurriel isn't bad. And then you also have George Springer out there in the outfield. So that's a really great team. And when it comes to the Red Sox too, I want to mention them real quick. And tell me if you agree with me or not. I don't really think they're all that great. I just feel like they've had things really work out in their favor this year, because I don't think anyone expected the Red Sox to do that great this year. But tell me what you think about the Red Sox, actually.
Yeah, I think the Red Sox are kind of similar. I mean, not as good, obviously, but kind of similar to the San Francisco Giants, where they're unexpected to do well, and they're doing very well with some of these players from the minor leagues, stuff like that. And then they add Chris Sale, which is a huge addition for the Red Sox. Bullpen has been a little bit iffy, but Nick Pivetta has really been pitching well for the Red Sox with a 3.48 ERA for the Red Sox, which is really helping them out in the starting rotation. But honestly, the Red Sox are doing well. They're finally unpredictable team. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're very up and down, but definitely the Red Sox could be getting that wild card spot. And then you got the Blue Jays and Yankees in there too. It's all going to depend on how good the Yankees do in those 2 series. I'd say best case scenario for the Yankees is you win both of those series, and I think not guaranteed, but I think you have a very good chance of making the wild card.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. This all depends on the Yankees, just with the way that their games are lined up. And honestly, for fans, really, you couldn't ask for a more exciting finish to the season. Now, I mean, they could get blown out in every single game with the way that the Yankees are and how inconsistent they've been. But I mean, how exciting is this? I mean, we're tied with the Rangers right now, which, I mean, we should win this game, which thank you for telling me too. I didn't realize we were tied, which that's exciting because we shouldn't even be losing.
Mhm,
Rangers
yeah.
are not a good baseball team. But I mean, how exciting is this though? Looking ahead, I mean, we got the Red Sox, our rivals, coming up. Then got the Blue Jays. That should be fun. Hopefully, the Yankees can get some revenge if they see it fit that day, if they feel like they can play good baseball. And then the Rays, who I feel like we haven't really played in a really long time. I feel like it's been forever since we've been playing.
Yeah.
We played the Tampa Bay Rays. Like, I can't even tell you the last time we played them. It feels like forever. But regardless, it comes down to the Yankees and whether or not they're going to show up in those games or not. And I feel like the Rays series is somewhat inconsequential because not only does that series not matter as far as they're not going to overtake the Rays, but I also don't think they're going to win more than like one game against the Rays. I feel like the Rays are too good right now. But the Red Sox and the Blue Jays, I think they have a serious shot right there. Like that's their season's on the line in those two series. It should be a blast to watch. But yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Now I want to ask you about the rest of the AL, or did you have something else you wanted to chip in about?
Well, I just wanted to mention about the Yankees that they got Herman coming back now. Herman's not activated, got activated today. Tyone is now on a rehab assignment, so they'll get Tyone back. And I think the key for the Yankees down the stretch, if they so happen to make the playoffs, key addition, Luis Severino. He looked very well last night. He was even pumping 95. His changeup was looking good with that little sink in that changeup, and his slider was working good too. I think if they make the playoffs, I think Luis Severino is going to be the X factor for the New York Yankees going forward.
Yeah, and I'm going to go off of that, and I'm going to say also I think a big X factor is going to be if they can get Jonathan Loáisiga back, because I heard some murmurings that there's a chance he could start a rehab assignment pretty soon. And having Severino and potentially if they don't decide to use Herman as a starter and have him be a 2 to 3 inning reliever, and then also having Loáisiga potentially come back with Severino, Loáisiga, and Herman, like you took your bullpen from being terrible to actually now potentially being a serious threat to a lot of teams. So. And let me tell you this: get Andrew Heaney off the roster, please.
This is not even worth anybody's time to even talk about him. He's not existent in my eyes.
Yeah, he's terrible. But as much as it's going to come to the pitching, it's going to come to the bats too. Because how many times did the Yankees only give up 1 run, 2 runs, or even no runs? Yet the bats don't do anything, and we lose the game. That's what we're going to really need to see our bats step up in the big moments. And hopefully, I mean, last year Giancarlo was great in the playoffs, so hopefully he can find a way to do that again. Judge has been hot. But that's enough about the Yankees. I mean, obviously a little bias here from Yankee fans. But tell me how you feel about the rest of the AL, because we have the White Sox, we have the Astros, you get the Rays. So tell me who you feel the most. Obviously, the Rays seem to be the powerhouse. Astros are still good, which sucks because they cheat. Astros are still good, though. And then, I mean, I personally am a fan of the White Sox. Like, I think they're a really well-built team. But tell me who you kind of like out of those three.
See, I actually agree with you. I like the White Sox because of the names. Like, if you look at the Rays compared to the Astros or the Rays, yeah. So the Rays, when you look at it, they don't have as many names like as the White Sox do, and like that could hurt them in the playoffs, because when it's playoff baseball, you got to have names. You can't just throw out these pitchers because if you look at the Rays roster, you're not going to have a lot of starting pitching, and your pitchers are going to be pitching on 1-day rest, stuff like that. So your bullpen is going to get taxed is one thing for the Rays. If you look at the White Sox, you got Giolito, who's a good pitcher. He can give you 6 or 7. You got other arms, Carlos Rodon, who pitched a perfect game this year. I mean, he's pitched very, very well. You got other arms in that bullpen. Adding Craig Kimbrell as well to that bullpen with Liam Hendricks, as long as Liam Hendricks doesn't face the Yankees, of course. And then, obviously, those two teams are right there. The Astros are right there as well. But honestly, I look at the Astros and Jose Altuve with the whole scandal with the Astros. He hasn't looked that great this year. So I'm looking at a series where I'm thinking the White Sox are probably going to take control. But if you see one of those wild card teams, I would not be surprised. Whoever comes out of that wild card can beat the Rays just because of playoff baseball having to go not just a 3-game series, like a 5-game series.
Yeah.
In that first round.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think the White Sox best built with their pitching, with their bullpen, even with the names that they have in their lineup is just too good, I feel like, to not make some noise come playoff time. And like you said, I think the Rays are a beatable team just with the way that their bullpen is going to get taxed. Once you have to run on 1 day's rest or 2-day rest, I feel like it's not going to work out for them. But regardless, we're coming down to the final 2 weeks of baseball, and this wild card race, this AL wildcard race, is really just heating up, and it's so exciting to watch. Yankees, we'll see what happens tonight, and then we'll see what happens on Thursday when they take on the Red Sox, and we'll see what happens with the Blue Jays and if they're going to be able to try to bounce back after dropping this game today against the Rays. But like I said, baseball right around the corner, AL wildcard getting hot. It's a fun time to be a baseball fan. So, Derek, thank you for coming on here to talk to me about that. Thank you for coming on. First time. Let's get everybody, give it a round of applause for Derek. Derek, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's good. It's good to have you on for the first time, and I hope to see you back. You better be back. I'm looking forward to it.
I will be back.
Good stuff. All right. Thank you so much, Derek. We'll see you.
See you.
Next, we're going to hop over onto Isabella's room because she's going to talk about football. Because like I said, week 2 just ended. And, baseball, sure, America's pastime. That's what it's known for. But a lot of people see football as America's pastime now. So let's freaking talk about football. Let's talk about some football. Let's get it. Isabella, how's it going? First time on the show. What's going on? How you
First time, Connor. I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Oh, yeah, of course. I'm feeling great. And let me ask you a question. Is there a better time in America than football time in America? Because I don't know if there is.
I don't think that there's a better answer than football. It's definitely my favorite one to watch. I love a good baseball game in the summer, but I don't know. Once fall hits, I feel like it's football all the way. You got high school football, college, professional. I don't think there's a better answer. Fall is football. You got to go with it.
Exactly. You got to go with it. So tell me what's going on. I mean, we just had 2 weeks go by. A lot of good stuff has happened. We've seen some good performances, some bad performances. What's going on? Give me the rundown.
Definitely. As you guys all know, week 2 is just about wrapped up for the NFL. Let's take a look at the good, the bad, and, the ugly of week 2. So let's start on a positive note. Let's start with the good. We still have an array of undefeated teams. Among those, we have the Cardinals, the Bucks, the defending Super Bowl champs, the Rams, the Raiders, the 49ers, the Broncos, and the Panthers. Among those, I have to say, in my opinion, the most surprising have to be the Panthers and the Raiders. With the Panthers, you have to tip your hat to starting QB, first year in Carolina, Sam Darnold. He's been absolutely pristine in the pocket thus far. His current stat line through these first 2 weeks is a total of 584 yards, 3 touchdowns, and just 1 interception. And coming from the Jets, who have been, a seemingly disastrous organization, a lot of people thought that his career was over. There was no way he could bounce back. And with these 2 weeks underway, he has seemingly proved us wrong. He is reunited with someone like Robbie Anderson, who helped him out in the Jets organization, and now he has weapons like CMC and DJ Moore, who have been absolutely beneficial to his growth as a QB over in Carolina. It's definitely not – it's hard to think that the Panthers can't be legitimate competitors in this league, and they've proven that so far with 2 weeks to go. On the flip, I have to give a nod to the Raiders also. John Gruden really looks like he took that team by storm this year. A lot of people would have to say that he made some questionable calls with the trade of Khalil Mack, for example. But let's say Derek Carr has been on fire, and he is right now, seems like a front runner. I know it's early, but front runner for MVP. He's averaging over 400 pass yards and completing over 65% of his passes, which is just insane for someone who a lot of people would have doubts about him. Dalen Waller has been balling out at the tight end position, and Henry Ruggs has proven to be a really good deep threat in the long ball game. These 2 teams have been most surprising to me. Connor, who would you say is the most surprising or is your dark horse for these first 2 weeks of undefeated teams?
Listen, let me start by getting my bias out of the way. I'm going to pull Skip Bayless and talk about my own team. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. You can see the flag right there. Let's go Raiders. Derek Carr, listen, let me let the bias speak. I've been rooting for Derek Carr. Obviously, he's on my team. But everybody's always said he's terrible. I personally have always thought he was underrated. He's had good stats. It's just nobody notices it because we don't have the record. Now to finally see him balling out and actually have a defense has been absolutely great to watch. It's been so much fun. I thought they were going to lose to the Steelers. I had a feeling we were going to beat the Ravens. When it came to the Steelers, didn't know if they were going to be able to win there, but they did. And that kind of surprised me, was that getting that win over the Steelers. I knew that they were going to be a better team this year than they were last year. But yeah, that Steelers run really makes me think wow, we might have something serious on our hands, especially when it comes to the performance of Derek Carr. Looking at the Panthers, though, I've liked the Panthers for a long time. I just like the way that they built that defense, like getting guys like your Turk Matos, Derek Brown. They have Jeremy Chin, who I like a lot over at safety. And then not to mention getting Sam Darnold, who Jets fans have always been rambling to get him out of there for quite some time. They think he's terrible. I think that was more, he was a product of a system. He was with Adam Gase, one of the worst NFL coaches in NFL history, in my opinion. He's terrible. And you put him in that system, how is he going to find any success there? I couldn't tell you. So getting him in a new location, sometimes that's all a player needs. And it seems like that's all that Sam Darnold needed. So while I did like the Panthers, I'm going to say that they're really the big surprise for me, seeing them do that. Actually, the Broncos as well, too. They're 2-0. They went up against two not so great teams in those first 2 weeks, but I'm kind of surprised by Teddy Bridgewater. Like, he's looked pretty good, actually, surprisingly. Teddy Two Gloves doing what he does, what he did before he got that bad injury. But I would say Carolina. I had a feeling that they were going to be better this year, but I didn't expect them to be starting the season off 2-0.
I have to agree with you on that. Carolina is definitely my dark horse right now. Like you said, Broncos another surprise. Teddy Bridgewater has been balling out. You got to root for the underdogs in these situations. Get a little bit tired of hearing, the Bucs with Tom Brady in the win and the Patriots with Mac Jones. You need some of these dark horses. And I love a good underdog story. So I hope these guys continue to do well and prove everyone wrong.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Listen, I'm going to agree with you. I'm tired of hearing about Tom Brady. When the guy is getting carried by his defense, they're getting takeaways. He's got 20 yards to get a touchdown, and he's getting hyped up for throwing like 4 touchdowns when he also has probably one of the most stacked offenses in the NFL. Like, it's basically like pick your poison. What weapon you want to go to? Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, and not to mention his running backs either. I mean, come on.
Definitely.
But I don't want to go too long about ranting about Tom Brady. I'm not a big Tom Brady guy.
We can go for hours.
No doubt.
All right, so now with the good wrapping up, obviously there were big wins with the Titans, Derrick Henry absolutely balling out, and with the big upset with the Ravens over the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Let's turn to the bad now. A little bit of an injury report. Week 2, you never like to see a lot of injuries coming in, but this week there were a lot of QB injuries. You had Carson Wentz over at Indy having a little bit of an ankle issue there. His status is still questionable for week 3. Andy Dalton out, Justin Fields in. A lot of Bears fans are excited about that. Another big injury, Tyrod Taylor for the Houston Texans, also suffered an injury this past weekend. But perhaps the biggest has to be with Dolphins QB Tua Tagovailoa has been deemed out for week 3 after going down in the first quarter against the Buffalo Bills this weekend. Tua struggled to get up after a big hit on 4th down. And while early tests indicated there were no severe fractures, after undergoing more tests this past Monday, Tua has been diagnosed with fractured ribs and is now week to week. He has been ruled out for week 3. So Jacoby Brissett is coming in to relieve him. He came in last game, struggled a little bit. Obviously, didn't score any points, didn't able to get anything going. Obviously, some jitters in there. With Finn suffering a 35-0 loss to the Bills. But, I think Brissett has a little bit of experience under his belt, obviously coming from Indy. Hopefully he looks better heading in this week as the starter and can get the job done without Tua, and we hope that he does well. Connor, what are your thoughts on the situation over there in Miami?
Yeah, it's definitely rough. I mean, I've always had my doubts about Tua just because I feel like he's one of those players that is potentially made of glass. I mean, he had that big injury when he was playing in Alabama, and I was really worried about how he's going to come back for that. And then even last year, I didn't think he looked that sharp in general as far as throwing the ball. I mean, he got placed by Ryan Fitzpatrick halfway through the season or near the end of the season. I don't know. I've never been sold on Tua, but it still sucks to see him get injured because you want to see him do good. But now, I mean, and I guess the type of hit that it would have fractured anybody's ribs, to be honest. But it's just Tua's health always has been somewhat of a worry for me. I don't know if you've ever felt the same about Tua, but I've always had my doubts just because of his health.
Definitely. I think one of his biggest flaws, obviously, coming into the draft was his injury. Obviously, to see him go down this week, it probably turned a lot of heads. Maybe a lot of organizations that passed on him probably felt, a little bit safer in that sense. But obviously, as you said, never hope that anyone gets injured and hope that he can get back there and continue to prove that he is the answer to Miami's QB problems. Turning into now to the ugly. We're going to look at some rookie QB situations. Week 2 is definitely not the best week to be a rookie QB in the NFL, specifically looking at Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence, the top 2 picks in last year's NFL draft. Starting with Zach Wilson. He opened up his career at MetLife Stadium in a messy fashion. And the Jets' 25-6 loss to the Patriots this past Sunday. Wilson's first 2 pass attempts resulted in INTs. And that didn't get much better after that. He finished his sloppy home debut completing just 19 of his 33 pass attempts with 0 touchdowns and a total of 4 interceptions, something you never like to see, especially as a Jets fan. Trevor Lawrence was not much better than number 1 pick. He also had a sloppy start to his home career in Jacksonville. He threw 2 picks and 1 touchdown, and the Jaguars lost to the Broncos this weekend. He completed just over 42% of his passes and had a QBR of 30.7%. Obviously, this season is just getting started, so looking at these rookie QBs, a lot of people are getting nervous. I was actually at the Jets game this past Sunday. A lot of angry Jets fans. Wasn't a fun one to be at. But here's my question for you, Connor.
Yes.
Do you think it is better to have a rookie sit at least half the season, maybe even a full season, have a veteran QB kind of lead the way for them? Or do you think it's better for them to have games like this where they struggle, throw a lot of interceptions, get a lot of backlash, and kind of pick themselves up after this kind of game and learn from there?
See, I think that is actually a great question, because I feel like there are pros and cons to each. I mean, getting a guys like Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence in there to get reps and not perform well, I mean, one, it builds them tough skin to deal with the fan base and all these analysts and stuff that are going to criticize them. But 2, it shows them that they can make mistakes. Because, I mean, when you get a rookie quarterback, you're usually trying to build a team from the bottom up. So you're not really looking to make the playoffs. Like, there's no way the Jets were going to make the playoffs this year. There's no way the Jaguars, were going to make the playoffs this year. So having them go in and make these mistakes is kind of okay. Like, in a way, it doesn't really matter. But at the same time, it is tough, because if they crack under the pressure, or if they weren't ready yet and now they never find a way to bounce back after these type of games, there's no telling what it can mean for the rest of their career. I mean, a good example is a guy like David Carr, who played for the Texans, got sacked all the time, had a really tough time getting about it, and never really bounced back, even though he was a really good player in college. But then there's also the whole Patrick Mahomes thing, right? Sitting a quarterback for a year. I think that has great advantages as well, because it can get him to learn the system, learn from a veteran quarterback, and then step in when the team is built a little bit more, right? Patrick Mahomes came in, the team was built a little bit better. They had an extra year to get pieces around them, and that's exactly what they did, and Pat Mahomes has looked great for it. But I think part of the issue, too, is that I feel NFL teams are just impatient. I mean, look at what's happened with Justin Fields and Andy Dalton. We all thought – I mean, yes, Andy Dalton is hurt, but we all thought that Justin Fields was probably not going to be in until at least halfway through the season, and now he's going to start in week 3. So every side has its pros and cons. I think it really depends on the type of team you have. If your team has the weapons right now and has the ability to do something, then sure, put in a rookie quarterback. Maybe – or I mean, don't put in a rookie – don't put in a rookie quarterback. Let the veteran do his job. See what you could do. But if your team's not looking too good, might as well throw the rookie out there, see what he could do, see if he can make some stuff happen with what he's got, and figure out how to build forward for the next year. What do you think, though?
I cannot agree more. I have to say the one thing that you said there that I want to emphasize is patience. A lot of these fan bases, especially with struggling organizations like the Jets, the Jaguars, they haven't seen winning seasons in a while. Let's put it in reality. They were the top 2 worst teams in the NFL last year. Yep. They had the top 2 picks. One player doesn't make a difference in a team. They both have new coaches. They're both in this rebuilding process. It doesn't happen overnight. Fans need to be patient, and there's going to be days where these rookie QBs struggle and throw a lot of INTs. It's just the reality of the situation, especially when they both have a little bit of a struggling O-line there. I have to say the Jets O-line did look better this week. Their defense looked better, so, only things can go up from here. It's a learning experience for everyone. It's a learning experience for the 2 coaches that are new. It's a learning experience for these 2 guys that are right under center. I think a lot of it has to come with like you said, the patience that the fans need.
Yep.
Both are very struggling organizations, so I think that's important. I think a lot of people also look at Patrick Mahomes having a year out, sitting on the bench, kind of learning. They think that now that's the answer to everything. But like you said, he was in a very different situation over there in Kansas City that the Jets and Jaguars both are not in now. He was able to learn from a veteran who was experienced. I think it was Alex Smith, if I'm not wrong.
Yep.
So obviously learning from Alex Smith compared to someone who the Jets have, I think their backup right now is like Mike White. It's a different situation.
Right.
I think it's really important for these guys to get reps under their belt. Losing's going to come, but hopefully in the long run, these losses will turn to wins, and it'll just be a learning experience for them. Like someone was saying on the radio this past week, Peyton Manning had the most interceptions as a rookie QB. Interceptions aren't everything. It's how they bounce back from it. So let's hope they do better in week 3.
Right. And just as you started the segment with the good, the bad, the ugly, I mean, and you say the perfect scenario. I mean, rookie quarterback seasons are ugly. That's just what they are. They got to learn. They have to get to the next level. And for guys like Trevor Lawrence, who, I mean, people expected to be at that level already, but apparently not, and Zach Wilson, it's going to take time for them to develop. It's going to take time. And we have a whole lot of season left for them to do that. And we have a whole lot of season left for football.
Definitely.
It's going to be exciting to watch. Coming up on week 3 right now. Should be tomorrow night from when we're filming this. Tomorrow night is going to be Thursday Night Football.
Yeah.
So we got Carolina and Houston. And again, we'll see if Carolina can carry on their success and be the team that the 3-0, maybe that's huge, starting 3-0. And just the thing too, that the Buccaneers are going to be playing the LA Rams, which that could potentially be an L. LA Rams are a great football team. They're actually my dark horse to win the Super Bowl this year. I love the LA Rams.
Definitely. You got to love what Matt Stafford's doing over there. Maybe this is what he needed. A lot of people thought, oh no, it's just, she's not that good, but I don't know. He's lighting things up over there. I wouldn't be surprised if they make a run for it.
Oh, I think they can. I think they certainly will. Matt Stafford needed a change of scenery and some new weapons, and that's exactly
100%.
Well, a whole lot of season left. Hopefully Matt Stafford can do some good things. And everybody else, hopefully these rookie QBs find a way to bounce back. But Isabel, thank you so much for joining the show for the first time. You did a fantastic job in your first time. Great job. Yeah, no problem.
It was fun.
Yeah, no problem. Hope to see you on here again. Thank you.
We'll be back soon. Have a good one.
I hope so. See ya. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us for another segment of Halftime on the Hudson Dorm Discussions. I hope you learned a lot. You always learn a lot from Nick, right? He came on, but I hope you learned a lot from Derek and Isabella too. They did a great job on their first time on the show. And stay tuned because you're going to see them again. You're going to see me again. You're going to see Nick again. You're going to see everybody again. You're going to, you know the drill. You know how this thing works. Maybe we'll find a way to go live again because that's always a blast. But everybody, thank you so much for those of you who watched. Thank you, as always, for watching and hanging out with us here on Halftime on the Hudson Dorm Discussions. We'll see you again next time. Bye.